So before I hand over to Saskia to go into more detail with the method, what I said was that the method is how you're going to go about testing your hypothesis. Our hypothesis is that we think that paying these bonuses lead to employee satisfaction. Okay? The method is now going to go ahead and test that. So logically, how would we actually go about and test that? We would need to think about not only how we're going to do it, but also what we're going to use to do it. But even before that, we need to actually think about where we're going to actually test this. So we need to think about, maybe we could take two companies, one company where bonuses are paid, another company where bonuses are not paid. So we take company X and company Y. Company X pays bonuses. Company Y does not pay bonuses. And we just compare them. But how do we go about comparing them? So before Saskia talks to you about that in terms of how to practically implement that, I just would like you to think about the different ways in which we can do that. So the one way to do that is to compare two companies that are more or less the same in every other respect. Say two cell phone companies, which do the same thing, pay roughly the same salary, have the same demographic makeup of employees. The only difference being, ideally we want two groups which are the same in every way except the thing that you're testing. So that's one way. The other way would be to look within the same company and look at, maybe there's a company that up till 2010 didn't pay bonuses, and after 2010 started paying bonuses. Then we can do a comparative thing along a timeline, and we can test it within the same company before and after that time. So you can decide exactly how you want to design it. This is all part of your own research design. So on that note, hand you over to Saskia.
Alright, now let's start with step 3 as on the board, which is the method as Serena said. Now, with relation to our example, it would be the how, asking the question how, and how am I going to test my hypothesis? Well, with regards to our example, which is focused on looking at whether employees are actually happier when they receive bonuses at the companies they work or not, we have come up with two different testing methods. All right. The one we decided was interviews. We could interview each individual employee and determine whether that person is satisfied with his job or not. You can do that, as Serene said, by either looking at the two different companies, going to the company that does not receive bonuses and actually interviewing the staff based on their happiness level. Then you can go to the next company who receives bonuses, and you would actually again interview them and ask them questions that would get you to understand whether they are happy or not. You can do this in the same company as well, but we'll speak about participants in a second. The second method that we decided to use is a survey, which is normally used when you work with bigger groups of informants, but that is entirely up to you in the study. So you can create a survey that poses questions like whether the employee is happy and what would make him happy and so forth. And then maybe give him a rating scale from 1 to 5, 1 being unhappy and 5 being exceptionally joyful. Either way, you can use these various methods to get your data that you will need. Now there are various other ways, other methods of approaching studies as well. A third option, for example, that we could think of was passive observation. Right, in this regard, you would actually observe them, the staff and the employees within the company, within their working environment, and see who performs better, who is more motivated every day, who is happier every day. So either way, that is up to you, and there are really so many different methods. But keep it simple and test something that you think is interesting, and use your method in a way that you believe will get you to the data that you need. The next step will then be looking at your group of informants. Step 4. Right, with regards to step 4, you're going to need to think of, as Suren briefly summarized earlier, the type of informants that you'll use. The first obvious one with regards to our example is they obviously need to be staff. And the staff within that company should either be staff receiving the bonuses depending on which company you're testing. Alright, then you need to think with regards to other aspects that could influence the results that you might get. Now, males and females may think differently, which is arguable. Different cultures may think differently. That can affect a result. So it's also helpful to maintain a certain amount of similarity within one group. So your group with regards to this particular assignment should be 10 informants. So 10 informants, which is relatively small for a study, but very nice to be able to identify certain aspects that could affect your data. Like whether this person is just, have a negative attitude because of certain personal issues he might have. It can all influence what you at the end of the day want to accomplish. But keep it as simple as possible. Alright, and then...
Yeah, just when we spoke about passive observation, that would be something like going to the two companies and not interfering at all, but just watching the way they behave and take field notes. Do they walk enthusiastically to the offices? Are they smiling? Are they happy? Do they greet each other? And just make little random notes about that, and then do that for a week or two, and then consolidate them, write up a report, and then compare them. That's what passive observation could be. Could also be where you set up a video camera and film certain aspects of the workplace. Obviously you need to do this with permission and get ethical clearance and so on. But that's why it's in brackets, because it's not something that we really want you to do, but just think about it as an alternative method for testing your hypothesis. And Saskia said something about sampling. Very important that you choose. You can't interview or survey every single person in every single company that you're researching. First of all, your selection of a particular company is already a sample. Second of all, which employees you're going to sample and choose to be part of your experiment is a decision you'll have to make, how you will go about selecting them. So if you come to UNISA and you select them, which departments are you choosing? Who in which departments and why? And you can't make them all new black staff members. There must be racial representativity, and there must be demographically well-rounded. They can't be all from one group, because that might skew your results. So the way you select your informants is important. Often at third year level, if you have what we call a convenience sample, it's acceptable. But just explain it. Explain how you selected your informants. Then, step 4 requires you to put your informants together and give them the survey and do the interviews with them. I trust that's clear. Step 5, it says material, but it actually pertains to putting your material together. Do you want to just elaborate on putting the material together?
All right. Now, when you think of your method in step 3, we discussed interviews and survey in this particular case. Now, material will be whatever you need to actually test the how. All right, so when we think of an interview, what would we need? I would assume questions, firstly. You have to ask the right questions to get the information that you will need. So, are you going to video record them? Are you going to voice record them? Are you going to make notes or transcriptions? These are all things that you're going to have to prepare in advance before you actually go and execute your study. So, with regards to material, that is what we do. We design the materials that you will need to actually test. Alright, so we said we need questions, prepared questions for our example, and for our survey you're actually going to have to set up a survey and draw it up, deciding on what content is necessary and information you're going to need to again get to your results. So don't get confused between method and material. It may look similar, but the one is the how process and the other one has to do with designing.